Welcome to the RPG Book Club. On today's episode, we kidnap a queen?
Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little chunk of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I'm Michael Spiffle-Webbin.
I am Sam Allman.
And I am Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
And today we're going to be playing Rogue Galaxy to the end of the final chapter. What's the name of the final chapter, Sam?
Let me scroll down to the bottom of this thing.
I'm pretty sure it's come to an end, right?
It's
No.
To Eternity.
Yeah, that one.
To Eternity, that's right. All right, cool, awesome. Just one chapter this time. So before we start, how are y'all doing?
I am doing great. My band finally had practice for the first time since early April today.
Oh, goodness.
So, because we went on tour, and then we're like, okay, I don't want to see you for a week, and then we'll hang out the next week, and then we'll start practice the week after that. But every single Wednesday, I would be like, hey, are we having practice? And they would be like, no, something came up until today. So it took 2 months, but we finally had practice, and it was great.
Good.
Wow.
So y'all don't suck now? Y'all didn't lose all of your skills?
Yeah, no. So we actually made a joke like a year ago because we played this song after like a 2-week break, and we came back and we played the song How to Play Dead. You can find it on Spotify and everything if you want to listen to it. But we played it as like our warm up, and it was like perfect and solid. And Travis made the joke where he's like, man, we're so good at this song. I bet we could take like 2 months off and come back and it would still be solid. And that was the song we warmed up with, and it was still great. So
Awesome.
I actually did a musical performance this week. I think I might have mentioned it in the chat. I played piano at church on Sunday.
Oh, nice.
Which I didn't realize until Sunday, but it's the first time I've played piano live, performed live publicly in 7 years.
wow.
So I didn't realize that, and then I realized that, and I was like, oh gosh, here comes the anxiety. I was gonna play all of the hymns, but I ended up only playing 2 out of 4 because like I was practicing, and I was just like, this is not coming together. I'm way too rusty. But the music leader at the church she's such a sweetheart. She was so generous and nice, and she said, sure, I'll do 2 of them. And then even though I thought I made some mistakes, she was so encouraging and great. So
That's great.
Awesome.
I had a great time, and it was super fun, even though it was anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
That's really all you can hope for most of the time is like, well, it was still anxiety inducing, but at least I had fun while it happened.
Yep, exactly.
I had a productive day of waking up at 8 naturally because I slept for 14 hours the night before.
Is it Mardi Gras?
No, I went to bed at 6 p.m. last night because I had a hell of a time sleeping the night before. And then I got my Mage Tower challenge done for my Frost Mage. And I haven't done a whole lot of complaining in the channel, but man, I hate those Mage Tower challenges.
Oh yeah,
I
Mage
hate
Tower,
them
Frost Mage,
so
definitely
fucking
things
much.
I understand.
But this is World of Warcraft for anyone who doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about.
I figured it was well.
Yeah. Sorry. It's a big hard solo challenge that you do for a special weapon that can only be done during this expansion, and once the next patch comes out, it's gone forever.
Oh, so you got to kick it now.
Yeah. I've done 2 for my priest, and I don't know how much I care to do the final one, because I like the weapon less and less the more I look at it, so it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, I fucking hate them.
So you're done.
And then, I'm basically done forever.
Good.
Good, congratulations.
Until they were unveiled, they're like, all right, 8.3, more Mage Tower.
All I can think of is that Mage Tower in Final Fantasy VI, which also sucks.
Yeah.
It's just a thing. Mage Towers just suck. They're just terrible.
It's like Mage is great, Tower's great. Mage Tower, not great.
Yeah. And
weird.
And then I spent the rest of the day just playing Pokemon and watching SGDQ. So
nice.
Very productive day.
Yeah. That's about all that I've done, except not GDQ because it's my weekend and I do other things on my weekend. So I've been watching Marvel's Runaways on Hulu, and it's really good.
Oh, there you go.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that.
It takes the basic plot of the first 2 issues, as in the first 46 pages of the thing, and stretches it out into 10 episodes, which is a really good thing, and it's really good. I really liked it.
Quick question. I've been looking for something to watch in the future, and me and my wife aren't not the hugest comic book / Marvel fans, but it's something that we can both enjoy. How scary or tense is it?
It's drama scary. There's no put the thing in the box or I'll shoot you type stuff. It's not high intensity, but it's oh no, they're going to get found out by the bad guy. Intrigue more than spoopy.
Nice. Good, because she doesn't deal well with high levels or medium levels or slightly higher than low levels of intensity. No. Anyway, we might check it out. Cool.
There is one particular scene, second to last episode, that she might be a little heart racy on, and the rest of it is feel good. So,
how far into the show is that one scene?
In that one, it is the last scene of one episode and the first scene of the next one.
Okay, cool. So by that time she's already invested. Good. Yeah. All right, cool. Good to know. Thank you. So I'm glad we're all. I feel like we're all doing a lot better than we were last week.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, last time. So on the last episode of Dragon Ball Z, basically we ran and all of our characters had some emotions and then got emotion orbs.
And then we made an emotion sword.
Yeah, and then we made an emotion sword. And now we're gonna go. We're like Carly Rae Jepsen, emotion sword.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna go kill a big baddie by running through a cave for a long time, because everyone knows that what's more dramatic than a drab cave?
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah.
So this dungeon, I guess we'll get started there. We won't spend a lot of time on it because nothing happens except you waste 2 hours of your life. So
that's why we didn't do it in the Let's Play.
Yeah. So we mentioned how cool it would be if you had the Zerard Towers as the final thing. And this sort of accomplished the same thing. Should have given us 3 check-ins on the story, and it gave us 0. So it was just running. And it wasn't as interesting to look at as the Zerard Towers was. It was literally just a brown default rock texture. Until halfway through it, the rocks start peeking up and there's giant face statues, which is cool, but it doesn't ever say what that is or why that's important. Or
yeah, those are legit cool, but yeah,
it's
not enough.
Too little, too late, and
also Ken and I lava everywhere.
Yeah, Ken and I had fun going every time we saw the face rocks.
So there's lava everywhere, which I think it's not actually lava. I think it's actually
rune. That's what it's supposed to be. Yeah,
but it just looks like lava. So they're like, this is the ultimate evil substance, and I'm like, what happens? Does it corrupt your soul when you touch it like a freaking One Ring? It's no, it does 30 damage.
It does 30 damage, and we even stood in it for a while so that it would we were trying to kill ourselves in it. And it took us down to 1 health, and it's nope, it's done.
Seriously,
wow, okay, we can't even die out of combat, I guess.
Yeah. Well, okay. I can forgive the programmers I can forgive the game designers if there was some programmatic reason why you can't actually hit 0 health out of combat. That actually could make sense. The game engine wasn't robust enough to handle that.
It just seemed really weird.
If they did that on purpose as a way to just be nice, then that's actually incorrect, and I don't like it. It's not like you're gonna do that on accident anyway. It's not hard to avoid the lava.
Yeah.
Come on, commit to the bit. Anyway, yeah.
The only thing about this dungeon is it did the thing that I really didn't like in the prison on Zerard, that where you're coming up on the dot, but then you have a fake out because you're not on the right level. So then you spend the rest of it lost because your waypoint is telling you to turn around and go backwards. And it was better on this one because you were always like going around it and like you spiraled in on it. But it the shtick of the dungeon was lava that couldn't kill you, and then way too big but easy once you realized you were gonna corkscrew maze arms where you could walk for like a minute and then go in the wrong one. But like the first time you see that, you're like, oh, okay, so it's going to be the one that takes me in the loop-de-loop, and then you're good.
In the interest of saying something positive, I actually did quite enjoy one thing of the dungeon, which is that even though it was basically a hallway, it was a relatively wide hallway, and there was always something going on. There were varying levels, high levels, low levels. There were like the even though it was all boring gray rock, from an architectural, just pure geometry standpoint, I actually quite enjoyed it. I put it in the upper tier of this game's dungeons. Not that it's super hard competition, but I enjoyed traversing the terrain. It was actually pretty nice.
Yeah, it was good. It should have had 2 more colors. It would have been much better. But
yeah.
So we make it through the swirly gig and make it to the meat of this playthrough is the 3 hours it takes you to play and die on this next boss fight.
Yep.
So the first one, I immediately was sad because we talked so much last episode about how cool it was that Mother was this tiny little thing, and it was like, yeah, it's so cool that it's evil, but it's tiny, and then that was just its head, and it was giant. And yeah. So,
although it was really cool looking, it was some H.R. Geiger shit, which is to say it looked like Mother Brain, which also looks like H.R. Geiger shit, but you know.
This first one I really liked, but it's super easy to not interact with the mechanics whatsoever, and I didn't. Yeah. Like, my second time, I ended up interacting with the mechanics, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, but it moves to the far end of this lava/rune pit, and you can't hit it with anything except for your gun. So you hit it with your gun, and it falls over, and then you smack it on its head. I had Illusion Sword on, which also hits it and makes it fall over and land on its head. And then I kept Illusion Sword up, so it never did any of its like AoEs or anything like that. That is like the meat of the fight. Which the second time I did it, I liked, but I was like, yeah, you made it too easy. Like gun isn't even like a trick. Like we know it's a face button, but yeah, the design wise, I really liked it. It was like kind of looked like what's the god with all the arms?
Oh, Shiva?
Oh.
Is it Shiva?
There's a couple of them. Yeah. I think you're thinking of a different one, but Shiva also has a lot of arms.
Yeah, so it's like Shiva with a cobra face and like wings sitting in lava, and it looked cool, and it did the thing.
It was pretty sick.
It did the thing that RPGs do, but did it in reverse. So this was the like big, gross, grotesque version, and then it turned into the clean cut version. It's usually backwards. You usually fight the dude, and then the dude goes, "Oh, but by the way, I'm Ganon Beast. I'm not Ganondorf anymore."
Yeah,
and
yeah, I agree. I thought that was nice. Yeah, it was interesting, and then even more so as we get a little farther into it.
Yeah,
yeah, it was cool. So here's the question. When y'all got the friendship, the magic Maname friendship sword, was it actually your best sword?
No.
The Zero Synchros? It was it was for me.
I don't believe
I got it, and I'm like,
us.
yeah, I got it, and I was like, yeah, this attack is less than my actual regular sword.
So it upgrades 4 times, and the 4th one is your like second best sword in the game if you level it up all the way.
Oh,
which
wow.
I had done because I went
into all this
stuff.
like once.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we skipped
I think
over.
You have to. Never mind. Doesn't matter. Go on.
So we skipped over. If you were going to say you have to use it, it's true. You do 0 damage with every other sword. But...
Well, I think here's the thing. I think you have to use it in order to knock it down. But once you knock it down, what I would do is I would switch to my regular sword, and then I would just wail on him. Yeah. So I was switching back and forth constantly, and I'm not sure exactly when you need to use the Geostigma, but I know you have to use it at least some of the time, but not all the time.
Yeah. So we actually skipped over the plot when you get in there. When you first show up.
What plot?
I mean, yeah. But, so like I think you just show up and you're like, this is it. This is the final boss battle. We're going to fight you. And she's like, but no. And you're like, but yeah. Pretty much. I think the important plot thing during the boss fight happens at the end of this next bit. So so you're fighting the Cobra face one, and then she's okay, I remember now. So you show up And you're like, hey, Cobra Face, we're going to fight you. And so you fight. And then afterwards, Cobra Face digivolves into Seraphimon, like straight up. Like there's no difference in the character models between her and Seraphimon. It's
wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There it is.
She just turns into Seraphimon. And so then you go Super Saiyan, and you're not Jaster. Like, you are...
Yeah, that's actually interesting.
You're the Star King, and the Star King's like, hey, I know your name. It's like Isabel or something like that.
With like 18 more syllables.
Yeah, but it's...
Oh, yeah. So it turns out she was just like some regular ass like witch, but then she gained ultimate power through the rune. So she's not actually a dark god. She's just a regular person who got real strong.
Yeah, and she was like... She worked
got that big dick energy.
She worked for the Star King back in the day, and he was like, "Yeah, you were a nobody, and when I was gone, you just took the power vacuum to think you're all big and bad, but I'm going to put you back in your space." So then you fight her as this one, and I really liked this boss a lot until I realized that she died to 3 hits of Supernova Mark III. So I just did that.
Oh shit, I didn't know we could do that.
Yeah, so yeah, because you don't even have to run over to her. You just sit there and you guard from her laser beam, and you do Supernova 3 times, and you win.
Oh my gosh, I was putting way too much effort into this battle.
Yeah, so since you guys put more effort into it, go ahead, explain the battle more, because mine was watching the Supernova cutscene 3 times.
Well, she does lasers, and there was some flying around involved.
A lot of flying around,
yeah. We used Illusion Sword, and I mean, it took her down pretty quickly still, but I don't remember much more than the flying around and the lasers.
It probably was just variations on that.
Yeah.
So there's a point in the game, and that point was Digo, where like the game was hard, and then like to apologize for that, it gave you chapter 7 where they just started giving you 1,000 EXP for every trash mob you fought. So then you got super over leveled, and the game wasn't hard ever again. So like,
well, it's
except
funny.
now it's hard.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mentioned a few episodes ago, after the Digo fight, but in some other fight, I was like, this game, I actually like this game's battle system a lot better when you're fighting a humanoid. Like when you're fighting a giant monster, it's just like kind of like annoying, even if the monster's cool looking. But when you're fighting a humanoid character, the mechanics like really shine. Digo, of course, was way too hard, but that's still an example of it being interesting. But then, like, whenever you fight what's his butt, Zero or Seed. Whenever you fight Seed, those are really good battles. So it's cool. Like, the game really shines when you're fighting humanoids, and apparently the game designers didn't realize that, because you do not do that.
Nope.
At the end of the game. In fact, it's even worse. A lot of games do this, by the way. This is not a problem unique to Hero Galaxy. The enemies, like a humanoid, is fun. A big beastly enemy, that's fun because at least they can run around. But when you get a huge enemy, especially on the PS2, of course you can't actually have a giant battlefield and a giant enemy. So what does it mean? It means you're fighting a background.
Yeah.
You're fighting a thing that is on a wall, and the thing hits out at you, and you run at it. And that's a very common thing that a lot of games do, but it's very seldom as fun as any other kind of battle.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. But it's like, for drama, you want it to be huge, right?
Yeah.
But gameplay-wise, that's not going to be as fun. I can only think of a few counter examples where that kind of boss is actually really fun.
And all of them are in Eternal Senia, but...
or Nier Automata.
Yeah. But dang it, I had a thing. Oh, so the example of how you make it super awesome without it just being a face that you're hitting is in Final Fantasy 15. The final boss is just a dude, but it's a dude with all the same badass superpowers that you have. So you're like flying around this whole city, like there's lightning everywhere, like everything's on fire, like things are huge and big and awesome.
That's a good fucking battle.
And you're just fighting a dude who's your size, and you're still having to like parry and do all of your normal fighting stuff. It's just they epicked everything around it, which was so cool.
My favorite game critic, Tim Rogers, always says that the real test of a game's mechanics is if it's still fun if you're doing a mirror match.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that means your game's really real. Now, it's not like if a game doesn't meet that criteria, it's not well designed, but that's like, That's really extra. Is if you can have a mirror match and it's good.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So after we take her down, then she like starts to explode, and it's super cool looking.
Yep.
And
as usual, the cutscenes are awesome.
Yeah, the cutscenes is super awesome.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it's at this one or the other one, but it reminded me of our Toy Story 3 thing where like everything's falling.
Yes, me too.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's running away. I'm like, what if they just die? What if everybody just dies right here?
That's the bad ending.
Totally like end of Lord of the Rings: Return of the King situation where they're like on the side of a volcano and they're like, who's going to save us? Did you notice that the number of volcanoes seem to keep changing? At first it was like one volcano, and then later it was like 50 volcanoes.
Yeah. But I think that's actually after the next
Phase
final
2.
boss. I think
maybe it is.
I think it's after. I think it's both. Actually, I don't know.
Yeah.
I should have taken notes. My PS4 is not working with me right now.
No, you know what? You're right. Yeah, the whole thing where they're wanting to get rescued doesn't happen until later.
Yeah.
Yeah, between phase 2 and phase 3, it's just typical like. There's explosions.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so everyone's like, we did it. We win. We're the best. We saved a galaxy. That was easy. Good thing nothing bad is ever going to happen. And then sure enough, here comes Volcog. And they do like this trope. Like I don't like in most JRPGs where it's like, oh, we killed the final boss, but then turns out that Vegeta has a boss and his name is Frieza and he's the actual bad guy this whole time.
Yeah.
And like they do it in every game. The worst one I've played is Blue Dragon because it's completely out of nowhere. Like in the very first dungeon in Blue Dragon, there's a mural where it's like, oh hey, remember back in the day when there was an apocalypse? And then 70 hours later, you beat the final boss that you've been going after, and then his spoilers, it's his parrot on his shoulder is like, oh no, I'm that guy from the apocalypse. Remember back 70 hours ago? I'm the actual bad guy. Fight me now. And it's
oh my gosh.
It's like, it's boring and I don't like it. But they do that here. But Valcog has been like, they did it in reverse. Mother was the like the Frieza secret big bad, and it's like, oh no, remember, like your galaxy is not in trouble of Mother, your galaxy is in trouble of Volcog, and then he's the bad
it's
guy.
like, hey, I'm the bad guy, remember?
Yeah.
Did you forget about me for 3 chapters?
Yeah, which we did. So
we totally did.
So they show up in the Emperor, and turns out that I was not spoiled by my wallpaper, and you don't fight the Emperor in space, like my wallpaper says. You fight the Emperor as this H.R. Geiger body horror grossness, because the Emperor comes down and is like, we're going to harvest all this rune, and then the rune's like, no, I'll harvest you, and like shoots up like lava tentacles and pulls.
Gets immediately wrecked.
Yeah, pulls them down into the lava and like takes over the ship and also everyone's body and like mushes them together. And like we joked that a big tonal shift would be bad, and then we had one, and I still loved it. So I don't really think that big edgy body horror tonal shift would do it.
Well, this was actually good. It wasn't the tonal shift. It wasn't like, remember we said that what would have been annoying is if it was like dark angst, them hating each other, but it was really just like, yeah, the bad guy is really gross looking and scary, which is like, duh, of course he should be. It's kind of like in every Kirby game, where 95% of a Kirby game is like, everything is green and plants and cute, and then the last 5% is like, oh yeah, now you have to fight like an evil, like existential, like hell, other dimensional space demon.
Yeah.
And you're like, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so we fight this other dimensional space demon in the coolest way. So Jaster goes Super Saiyan again, but he stays Jaster, and everyone's like, "Wow, this was a lot of character development to happen off screen." And and Jaster's like, "Okay, we have to stop it, but what will we do?" When we killed Mother, it destroyed the Zeosynchros, and we're like, we didn't see that happen, but I'm glad that you're telling me this.
Yeah, thanks for all the exposition.
He stabbed it into her face, like Link from End of Wind Waker style.
Yeah,
and I they didn't show it breaking, but I guess when he stabbed it into her face, it stayed there, I guess.
Yeah. So he's like,
I think I literally said, "Show, don't tell."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, well, we'll think of something, and then Padme shows up, and she's like, oh, by the way, you wanted another Power of Friendship Spirit Bomb to finish off your game RPG book club? Well, here you go. And so she brings all the hopes and dreams and fears of everyone on Mericlin and spirit bombs it into a giant Dragellum to then... apparently one of the Star King's superpowers is he can just grab raw material and just will it into the biggest anime sword you've ever seen in your life.
Oh my god, it's like
now,
10
he's
times
got
bigger.
Fucking big dick energy, let me tell you.
It's literally the biggest anime sword. I don't think I've ever seen one as huge as that.
Yeah. I honestly think it might be literally the Guinness Book of World Records largest manime sword in the history of manime swords. It's absurd.
Yeah, it was huge. And the worst part about it being huge is it then made that not fun. But we'll get there. We have 14 bosses to get through first. So you have your giant anime sword, and you're like, okay, if we take it head on, all of its weapons will kill us. So we need to split up and take out each of its weapons. And so I should have saw this coming without having to look it up, but...
you never saw it.
I didn't. So the Digo fight was the first of many fights that we've done one-on-one, and they were to prepare us for this final boss that is all one-on-one fights. And so the first one you get to is Digo's, and he's fighting this hand that comes up out of the ground that has a big old ring on it. And it's obvious that the ring is your glowing eye weak point from Zelda. And so you shoot the ring, and then he has a literal glowing eye weak point on his palm. And then nothing I did would hurt it. But he would do this move where he would slam his hand down, like right in front of you. And I'm like, well, that's when you do it. Like, I've played Zelda. I understand he's going to slam, and I'm going to hit. But Digo is the tank, so he's so... slow, so it would come down, and I would take a swing, and before he's like started the swing, it goes back up, and I'm like, this is annoying. How do I hurt this? Like, this is like, because I would get like, if I was lucky, I would get like one hit off, and I'm like, am I supposed to whittle it down with one hit, like over and over again? And then so I'm like, this, I have to be doing something wrong. Like with the Dio fight, when Spiffle looked it up, he's like, I have to be doing something wrong. Like, what is it? I'm like, it's got to be something. I look it up, and you jump. That's all you do. Is you jump. Yep. You jump and you hit him in the face.
Yeah, this whole game is like, hey, did you forget that air combos are a thing?
Yeah.
Because we hope you didn't.
Yeah, that's like 90% of what you're going to be doing on this fight. Yeah.
Yeah. So once you jump, he goes down really easy. He telegraphs his moves way in advance. He barely will hit you, but remembering to jump...
He takes forever, mind you.
He does take forever, but a lot less of a forever than getting one hit every 5 minutes.
Well, this one we did have a little more trouble with getting hit on because... Getting hit on. Anyway, because Digo is really slow. Yeah. So you kind of have to start moving before it even telegraphs what it's doing, and that's really hard to do.
Yeah,
you got to really maximize your movement for sure.
I definitely used healing the most on Digo and Jaster. Like, everyone else was fine. Digo and Jaster used most of my pots.
I think the optimal way to do that without having to heal too much would be 2 hits and then run with Digo. But we were doing 3 because we're...
And you want him to go away as fast as possible.
Well, that's just like the classic gamer's dilemma, right? Like, anytime you know you can safely get in 2 hits in a combo... You know, you're always going to try for 3. You're like,
I think I can squeeze in a third.
I think I can squeeze in one more. And you never fucking can.
No.
But, you know, such is the folly of man.
You would, you would think that we would have learned by now, but no.
Nope.
So, you get done with Digos, and you see, like, in one of the, like, high poly. I was about to say HD, but all of it's not HD. But
pre-rendered.
One of the pre-rendered high polys, you see the like big writhing mass that is the spaceship. Like, you see it explode off the side of it, and it like reel, and then it'll cut to the next person fighting or whatever.
Yeah.
And it does that a lot. It wastes a lot of time, because after I died, spoilers, I had to do it again, and I skipped all of them. I was like, man, here's another 2 hours. But since I skipped all of those cutscenes, I'm like, oh no, it was like 5 minutes.
Did we all die at the same point?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Where did y'all die?
Yeah, we all died. I died on Jaster's.
Yeah, the very last one. Yeah. And so we have to go through the whole thing all over again.
And the thing is, like, you've been warning me. So, like, I had the warnings. I was trying extra hard on Jaster. I still died.
Yeah. It's a little... bullcrap, but we'll get there. We have a bunch of easy ones between now and then. So the next two are Simon and Steve, and both of them, there's just a robot, and you just killed a robot, and you win. And like that's it.
Ghostbuster was
cute robot.
Yeah, Ghostbuster was the most overpowered thing for that because you get more uptime on Ghostbuster than the thing has health.
Nice.
So you just have it up the whole time, and you just jump up and you use it for a little bit, and then you run away from the chompy chomps or the kicks.
Yeah. So on my vacation, like I said, I went and I got I got number 1 in the battle recorder, and I got all of the quarries. So I had combined almost everybody's weapons down into one really good one. So Steve's like floaty gunny things like took off like a 20th of the guy's health. So I just spammed square and then guarded until it was ready, and then I spammed square and he was dead. I was like, this is super easy. So you get through both of those, then you go to Lilica's that tricks you. Because Lilica, you see the mob again, and granted, the cutscene then shows you there's a big thing on the wall, and it's like, do the thing. But
did we pay attention to that?
Definitely not. My first time, I definitely took down 2 of the robots before I realized that they were going to keep coming.
For once, I actually was smart in a video game and did notice, but that's the exception. So, like, I guess I decided to pay attention for 5 seconds.
Oh, good for you.
That was nice.
But
wow, we're so proud.
But I see how that would have been super obnoxious.
So Lilica has a move.
Also, like Chrono Trigger.
Lilica has a move called Serpentine Arrow, which is illusion sword but a bow, and so I turned that on, and it takes like 5 of those arrows, and the thing on the wall is dead. But that's only after you realize that the robots are going to keep coming.
Yep.
So then, go ahead.
Oh no, go on.
So after Lilica's fight, which is super easy, you then get to I think Jupus is next.
Yeah, it was Jupus.
Yeah, Jupus is next.
Jupus has another hand like Digo, but Jupus is a DPS and not a tank, so it goes way easier with Jupus. Just turn on his aromatic coffee thing, and then just waylay, and he's gone. And then after Jupus, you get to Zegrum. And so the final 3 are Isel, Norma, and Volcog, but like body horror versions of all 3 of them.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, so to clarify, basically it's super cool, and I appreciate this. It's like, hey, you know those 3 sort of minor villains that have been just like in cutscenes and you're not really sure what their deal is? Yeah, all 3 of them. And you hate them, especially what's the lady's name?
Norma.
Yeah.
She's like one of those great evil, like love to hate her kind of villains. Like she's just so nasty and mean. And the evil scientist, I just don't think had enough screen time for me to hate him. But like, he's fine.
He's the one that taunted us, the player, where he's like, "Don't worry, this dungeon doesn't mean anything. You wasted your time on Alistia."
Yeah. Well,
we kept calling him. We kept calling him Discount Professor Farnsworth.
Yeah, that's
so true. But yeah, so they all get morphed into like different parts of the ship. So it's like you got this like writhing mass of like person and robot and spaceship and rune. It's really tight.
It is an absolute nightmare.
But
not that hard to fight though.
Not that hard to fight. So Zegrum fights Isel, and his is super cool, but like too easy. So he has a weak point on part of him that you can lock onto, and also the arc that his shurikens fly in will probably hit it on accident anyways.
His lightning ability will hit it too.
Yeah. So he has a weak point on one arm, and then a super huge like I was going to make a reference, I can't even think of one, but it's a super huge arm on the other end, and so you hit the weak point.
He's like a crab.
Yeah. Like one of those king crabs with the
different sized crabs, different sized arms.
And so you shoot him on one side that it says it confuses him or something like that, and then he starts just like pounding the ground over and over again with the big arm until it gets stuck, and then you climb up the arm, and then hopefully you're smart enough to jump and hit his head, because if you don't, Zegrum is very mobile on his feet and he'll walk right off the edge. So so you just run up and you hit him on his head, and then he super telegraphs when he's pulling his arm out, and then you hit him. You only have to hit him one time in his weak point to get him to start over again. So once you figured out what you're doing, super easy to take down. But really, like, I think of the last bit, it was my favorite designed part of it. Like, I thought the design was good, even if it didn't.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, I kind of think it would have been neat if all of them had been like gimmicky like that instead of just like being regular fights. Like, I think it's cool to have a mixture of gimmick fights and regular fights. Like, we already had 2 regular fights.
Yeah.
Right? And so like I think it would have been cool if all six or 7 of these had been that kind of thing where it's like it looks scary, but it's not really that hard, and it's a fun little puzzle. You know, I feel like maybe some people would think that'd be anticlimactic, but I actually don't think it would have been. I think that would have been fine.
Yeah, especially because like we mentioned in Persona 3, you have your like battle hymn for everyone's souls final boss, and then you have the Burn My Dread remix final boss, and this one could have been the Burn My Dread remix final boss, and it would have been awesome, but instead
it's not.
But though technically we're skipping Kasala's fight. We'll get to Jaster's, which is what the instead was about. But Kasala's is super easy. The boss only has one thing that it's super telegraphed, and you can jump over and take 0 hits, and you just kick her in the face until her health is gone.
Oh no! You angel kiss her to death. It takes like 5 or 6 angel kisses, and she is dead. She is the easiest one to beat.
So even if you don't use Angel Kiss, it still takes about 20 seconds to take her down.
Yeah, it's piddly as hell. Although she also looks really cool. I thought it was a little weird that Kasala was the one fighting her because, like, I don't know, the good girl character and the bad girl character fighting each other, that's such a trope.
But,
yeah,
like,
well, this is the tropiest game that ever troped, so...
Yeah. I will say that of all of the, like, parts of the ship that it'd be, the fact that she was the mermaid on the front, I thought that was a cool touch, because like the thing didn't have a mermaid, but they like that's definitely what the inspiration was the mermaid on the front of the ship. She just was way too easy. Because like you said, Norma was the cool one of all these villains. Like, she was like, we knew Volcog was in charge, but she was the Darth Vader, and she would walk around and like get everybody in line. And she was the one that called Moriarty, knowing he was dead. It was like, oh, looks like we sent your money to nobody, and like all of that stuff. And then she just shot lightning at you, and you cheesed it. But so after you get through that one, you get to fight as the ultimate version of Jaster. And by ultimate version of Jaster, I mean you have your 999 hit points, but then you have 0 spells, and your DPS is turned to like 1 hit per about 45 seconds.
He's so ultimate. Yeah, that sword swings so slowly.
Oh my god.
Like, I get what they were wanting to do with the giant sword, which was make us feel awesome. Like, look how much power you have. This is how big your sword is. But imagine that big sword doing your super fast, like, illusion sword stuff. And even if the first 7 of these weren't the Sephiroth fight, this last one should have been the Sephiroth fight. It should have been super easy.
It totally should have been.
Because, like, the thing was, we all have to take out a different weapon, and then we can kill it. So it thematically would have been okay for it to be easy, but instead,
with the dramatic hint, it's like the power of friendship already overcame all the rest of it, so now all that's left is just to kick its ass.
Yeah, but no. Yeah. I will say, when we're like, how will we take it on? Jaster gives Super Saiyan to everybody, so everybody's Super Saiyan in this. Everyone's glowing red and being awesome, which I did think was cool. It was like, like we said earlier, that a RPG party is one person when it's convenient, and it was convenient at this point for them to all be the Star King, so they all got to go Super Saiyan. So you have this one swing per cycle giant sword, which of course you always try to get your second one, and then you end up wombo comboed and dead, and you start over.
Yep.
But
oh my god.
So
it takes forever to just whittle through all of his health.
Because, like, I was way over leveled, and I only did, like, 300 per hit. I don't know if that was about what y'all guys did as well.
Yep.
I don't think at this point your level matters that much, because I'm sure I was way less level than you, but it's essentially the same. The Star King, because the thing is, this is the Star King. It's not Jaster, so he's at a certain level, and it doesn't matter how much Jaster's leveled up, because the Star King is a certain amount of strong. I don't actually know
Except the Star King is very, very slow.
Yeah, I wish I could have fought it as Jaster, but so
seriously.
So it has like 5 different attacks, and it has these two hands that it's. By the way, we didn't describe it. It's the front of the ship, and it's Volkog's face, like, shoved on the front of the ship, but with a cannon for a mouth. And it's really cool looking, actually. It just was so frustrating to play that, like, I have bad feelings about it. But design-wise, it actually was pretty cool. And it has these 2 giant hands, and it'll cover up its face and be immune to all damage. But you have to taunt it out of that, so you have to hit his hands, and it'll be immune to it, but then he'll be mad at you and, like, swipe at you with his hands, letting you be able to go and attack. So most of it is no big deal. It'll either really telegraph it, so like it has this giant laser that just like zooms across the screen, but that one, it's like charges up for a long time, and so you're like, okay, well, I'm going to run to this other side and then block, so it'll maybe do 100 damage to me tops. But and then it has one where it will send up thorns from the ground, and those, if you block, only do 9 damage, so you just block through it and it's no big deal. And then it'll slam its fist down after it comes out of being immune, and that does like 150 damage if you block it, so that one's kind of scary. But the big one, and I'm sure this is the one that killed all of us, is his eyes shine like he's about to shoot eye lasers, and then 3 orbs appear at random spots around where you were when he shined his eyes. And if you are doing it your first time and you think that it's like all random or coming at you specifically and not something you can dodge, you just kind of ignore it and try to guard through it. But if 3 of them are close enough to you, they'll wombo combo you and do over 1,000 damage and kill you out of like from full health, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And
it's awful.
And you die.
That's not actually what killed me, but
then you go back and go back and do the entire fight all over again.
Yep.
It actually was just his stupid fist slam that killed me, because that thing, I was thinking, I tried to dodge it instead of block it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, the game doesn't telegraph super well, like, no, you should, like, because if you block it, it's like you said, 150, that's a lot for blocking. But if you try to dodge it, you get killed.
Yeah.
That's what got me. But yeah, the other one, boy, that one's nasty too.
Yeah. So yeah, you finally take him down, and then starts probably my biggest letdown in the game. Like, as far as the ending goes, like, I almost would have wished that it would have pulled a Final Fantasy IX at the end of the last chapter. It's like, and then you took the sword and you won the day, and like it ended there somehow. Because like the final boss was cool, like Mother was great, the here's the power of friendship stuff was cool, but you basically run away from a million volcanoes, and
all of the volcanoes.
And I wish that the cowards at level 5 would have just killed everybody, but they didn't. And and so you're like almost about to make it, but then the piece of rock that the party is on breaks off from the cliff, and they're about to like fall and die into the lava. And then the Dorganarch comes and lands like right there by it. And again, like when we first got here, we were like, first got to Margolin, we were like, oh, they added so much extra drama for no good reason, when the only plot was we landed on Margolin.
Yeah,
did the same thing here, where like he's coming in, and then there's an explosion, and everyone's like, oh my god, did Dorgangoa die? But he didn't. Like, that was it. He just didn't.
Yeah, it's like there's an explosion, and one of the engines is shot, and it looks like he's gonna crash, but then he just like manages to steady the ship and lands rather roughly, but still lands, and then you get on the ship. And it's really weird how it's like, oh no, it's fine.
Ken actually brought up a good point, because Dorgangoa is out on the deck of the ship. Who the fuck is driving the ship? Is it Monsha?
Yeah, it's Monsha.
Yeah. We can let Monsha like be cool for once.
Okay.
I mean, for
He's
twice.
actually really cool for a reason that I'll explain a little bit later.
I don't know how he reached the helm, but he's got like a little step stool.
He's resourceful.
Yeah. So,
like one of those little ones that kids use to get to the sink.
Yeah. So It also could be one of the 50 other NPCs that are on the boat, but
I suppose, but they're not important.
No,
Nobody
not at
knows
all.
their names.
Yeah. So you get on the Dorkanark, but the one of the engines was gone. What's going to happen? And for some reason, Rune, instead of turning you into giant freaky monsters, gives you wings and you fly off like a bird.
Like Red Bull.
Yeah.
Red Rune gives us wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know. It was cool. It's left unexplained.
It was one of the silliest things I think I've ever seen.
But it did answer the cover of the inside manual is the Dorganark with wings, and so
there we go.
It was answering that burning question from the first time you purchased and opened the game. But
when is my fucking ship gonna get wings? This is what I came here for.
During the movie at the end.
Yeah. So you fly out and you land over while you're flying out, the big creepy red sky that you've had clears up to be blue and everything looks like it's coming back and being awesome. And you go and you land to talk to Padme, and she asks Kasala to stay and be like, "Hey, stay with me," and all of that stuff. And Kasala says, "No, I belong in the stars." And I was like, that's really cool. Like, she's like, I don't need my birth family. I have my space family, and that's important to me. And I really
Did
enjoyed
she even
it.
ask her to stay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She like straight up was like, you should stay with me. She then also, as Kasala's flying over, she's like, I can't believe that. I think she says it here. It might have been just a voiceover in the final dungeon, but she's like, I can't believe that this Maraglin is from 10,000 years ago, which does mean that they put themselves in that time bubble and then time stopped. So it was like last week that Mother showed up on this Maraglin. And so we practically did travel back in time to go do this.
That does answer our question from before. And also that Kasala is not 10,000 years old, but rather just went through a weird time warp to appear at the time that she did. So I'm glad to clear that up, because I know it's not that important, but on some level you want the weird lore stuff to like at least click to some degree. And I'm glad that they bothered making sure it clicked to some degree.
Like in science fiction, you have this rule that's colloquially known as the you get one. And like in Mass Effect, there exists an element 0 that when you give it an electrical charge, it negates mass around it. That's the one bullshit, it doesn't matter thing. And then the rest of it has to build off of that. And so
it all extrapolates.
There's no such thing as atmosphere is the one that you get in Rogue Galaxy. So everything else has to make a little bit of sense. Even if it's like time, space, energy, hand wavy sense, it still needed something. And so I'm glad that they waved enough hands to make it not just a plot hole. But Padme's like, hey, please stay with me. I want you to be my princess and all of that stuff. And Kasala's like, no, I need to be out in space. And she's like, okay, I understand. Go have a good life. And so we get on the ship and everything's happy. And Jaster and Kasala do not say that they love each other, so that was really cool.
Yay!
Yeah. They definitely in the lore ended as like best friends. It's just the gameplay people were like, guy character, girl character, they're in love, right? Let's do a love special.
Yeah, exactly.
100% flavor text. Also, maybe it was even the localizers. Maybe in the Japanese, it's like
said power of friendship. Yeah,
it's like the power of friendship, but then they're like, oh, love, that must mean like romantic love and not just platonic.
That is an interesting point, because the word ski, which means can mean either like or love in Japanese. So they'll often, instead of saying aishiteru, which means literally I love you, they'll say ski or ski des, which means can mean I love you or can mean I like you.
Yeah.
Or I like this. It just depends on context.
Yeah.
Russian has that issue too. To say you love someone romantically, or just to say like, like I love you in the normal way. Same phrase, totally context.
Yeah. So so they walk off and everything is great and you're getting on the Dorganark and it should have cut to credits, but instead It should have. The rest of this I don't like much at all. So
I'm right with you, buddy.
So you're
weird.
You're flying off, and then when you get through the Stargate, instead of being out in the middle of nowhere, there's a planet there, and you're like, what is this? And it's Maraglan, but it got to live its 10,000 years. It got unpaused, and which I thought was really cool, like in a sci-fi way. But then the planet looked exactly the same, so kind of a wasted effort. Like they could have
literally nothing changed in 1,000 years. It should have been like it should have been like unrecognizably different.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
But instead, so
it's easier to reuse assets, guys.
Yeah,
obviously.
So we're like, well, let's go see like our handiwork. Let's see what happened in the 10,000 years since. So you go to land, and these dudes with boxes on their heads come out, and they're like, oh my god, it's Queen Kasala from all of the things. Here's your from lore, and they're like, we kept your mom's crown to give to you whenever you came back. So here you are. Here's the crown. Do you want to take it? And Dorgangoa literally quotes Kasala from not even 10 seconds ago. And Dorgangoa is like, well, technically he says it in a problematic way. He's like, she's not that type of girl. She can't.
They're like negging the hell out of her.
I was gonna say that. Like, why are they like? They're sitting there like just negging her the whole time. It's really frustrating.
It was
they're
super
literally like
frustrating.
they're not queen material. Like it's like they're not saying it. I get what they're saying, but they're not saying it in a nice way at all, considering that's her dad and her best friend, who is also a boy, and according to some of the writers in the game, has her.
And
you're not good enough for them. You should stay with us.
Yeah, so it was definitely weird, but like they were like inappropriately saying the exact same thing that she just told her actual mom like 10 minutes ago. But then Kasala was like, but no, actually I do want to be queen, and I have no training for any of this, but this is what I want to do.
I will say, honestly, if I was Kasala and my dad and my best friend suddenly started negging me to get me to change my mind, I would be like, no, fuck you, I'm staying.
Yeah,
so
totally
I'm
digging
going
your heels.
Yeah, I'm going with that route. That like Kasala just got fed up with those assholes,
right?
And I don't blame her for it.
I gotta say, for some reason, and I don't have a great explanation for this, especially after Sam's good description of why it's stupid, but for some reason, her change of heart did make sense to me. Like, she doesn't want to exist in some weird time bubble in the past, but she will continue her mother's legacy 10,000 years in the future. I don't know. Something about it made sense to me, and I think it's important that it did make sense to me because of the fucking bullshit that's going to happen in 10 more minutes. So I actually liked this part is I think significant for later.
Yeah.
Like As I thought about it as it was over, because I was sitting there mad, I did understand her. She was like, I don't want to never see my friends again, but I do understand my importance as Princess of Maraglan. And so this is a way for her to do both. Except she says that, and you're like, okay, well, we'll come visit you next week. And then the dudes with the boxes are like, yeah, but you smell, so you can't come back here ever.
Yeah, he's like, you riffraff can't approach the queen, and I'm like, can't the queen just say like, yes, they can? It's this weird, like, ominous, foreboding tone. Which, first of all, the idea of having a epilogue to a happy story where all of a sudden you think things are going to be happy, but then things are just a little bit weird. I love that kind of thing in general, and I think that's what they were going for. But it's just, you're just like, I don't get it. I don't get what's happening or how I'm supposed to feel about it.
It didn't work well here.
No.
Also, it's just like they didn't respect her decision at all. She's like, look, I can make my own decisions. And they're all just like, no, you're stupid. This is terrible. I can't believe this happened.
Yeah. So Kasala is down with that and leaves off with box heads. And so everyone's like, well, I guess we're done with the adventure. And stuff. So everyone gets in, and you get one final epilogue scene with everybody. I wish I had my screenshots to make sure I don't miss any, but I'll go down the list from last week to make sure I do everything. So Digo comes back in to the bar, and Burton and Angela are there, and that burnt photo of Gale, Indigo, and Angela. She's framed on the wall, and it's really sweet. Zegram and Jaster are still on the boat. Jupus goes back, and he does start working with the intern again, and they're making all science, and everything's great.
And they're in love.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I ship them so hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. So then Lilica shows back up, and she's not banished anymore, and Korra, I think his name, maybe Koran, something like that.
I don't know.
He like welcomes her back as like the badass and lets her do all of the cool stuff. And then Simon shows up to his family's house, and they're super happy to see him. I don't remember what happens to Steve. I think he just shows up to Pistachio, and they're having a good old
time. He and Pistachio just hang out, and they're like, yay.
Yeah.
They've got like a little robot that Steve found under the desk or something. Like, he pops out from under the desk, and I was like, were you giving him Dr. Fellatio?
Oh, my gosh. That would be very... I feel like that wouldn't be
a robot
good.
Without a lower jaw would not be pleasant for anyone involved.
Also
anyway,
his son.
I think
I said also Steve is his son.
It should be clarified that this is all... You could probably... All y'all listening probably assumed this, but this is during the end credits montage where the pop song is playing.
Oh, yeah.
Also, gotta say, I liked it. It was good. I was going to look up who sang it. It reminded me a lot of... which one did it remind me of the most? It really reminded me of the pop song at the end of some game. And I was going to look up the singer to see if it was the same singer, but I forgot to.
There is a place I'm longing for tonight, a place I love so far, far away, that lives in my heart, a treasure buried deep inside, and I'll keep wandering until I find it again someday. Somewhere the flowers are in bloom, a candle burning in a room. There is comfort in the darkest night, even when there is no star inside.
One thing I did like is the two, I guess, ending cutscenes. The one that ends the first half of the Get Your Party Together game, and then the one that ends the whole game. They used the same song in both of them, so it pulled you to it. Yeah, this was the same.
I guess it's been long enough that I forgot it was how the song went.
Yeah, this was the Gale Dies song, which was really cool. But
okay, yeah.
That's nice. I like that symmetry.
Yeah, all those little epilogues are like 3 seconds long, intercut with Jaster looking off into space and Kisala coming out and being like coronated at Mara Glen. And so then after that is over, you Jaster talks with Zegram. I think that's this one. Yeah, either talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember if this scene happens before or after the montage cutscene, but yeah, it happens at some point. And
because he talks with Mancha in one, Zegram in the other, and I don't remember the specifics, but basically one of them is like, everybody's gone, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, well, I think maybe the world out there needs a Star King, and they're like, or you're waiting to see if Kasala ever comes back. And then the other one, with either Mancha or Zegram, I don't remember which one, they're like, oh, so it was Mancha the first time, and the second one is with Zegram, and Jaster's like, well, Zegram, you didn't go home? And Zegram's like, well, we still have a job to do, and I don't leave until we finish the job. And Jaster's like, what's that? And Dorkin goes like, well, we all know what we're after, so we have one last heist to pull. And then it cuts to
the greatest treasure.
And it cuts to Will Friedle with a black screen with white text saying, like, and legend says this was the last heist that they ever did. And they don't say what it is or how Kasala feels about her being a heist, because that's implied. Yeah,
I was going to say, they totally fucking kidnapped Kasala.
Yeah. Like,
it's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's such
really
a weird,
like
creepy, upsetting, cynical, weird ending to a game, and it's literally the last 10 seconds of the video game. They could have just cut it. And the way he says it, he's like, we all know what we want. Let's go take it. And I'm like, dude, Kisala was like, I'm sorry, I need to forge my own life. And you're like, no, fuck you, we're going to kidnap you. Like, it's weird.
Yeah. The whole thing is just very confusing.
And like the ending was just kind of like typical and a little dull, but at least it wasn't like the last 5 seconds just like tanked it. It's just like these characters. Also, it's like as a dad, it's like Dorgan Goa was like, I'd really come to like him, you know, as a dad who cares about his daughter, and now he's just like doing the typical, you know, us in Texas totally know this, like conservative dad thing where it's like, my daughter does not have any autonomy.
Yeah, this was him loading the gun on prom night. Like it was that kind of dad right here, and it was weird.
One of my notes is literally all caps, let the lady be queen, you fucks.
Yeah, like here's how I would have ended the game. Boxhead is like, you guys are ruffians, y'all can't come here, and Kasala was like, yeah, but they're my family, so if I'm going to be queen, they're going to be queen. We're a JRPG party. We are one person.
We're all the queen.
We're going to be Queen, the 80s band. We're going to sing Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody together.
Yeah, and so her like putting her foot down right then would have been like a nice little bow on the theme of like you choose your own family and all of that stuff. And I would have liked that. And then they could have walked out and had everyone's like final thing would have been like if they showed like an in-engine cutscene of like for like Jupus and his boyfriend are like doing their thing there, but you see like him and his boyfriend at the coronation type thing. Like give that to be our big hurrah for the credits. Like I would have loved that so much more, but this felt like in a way like trying to leave a thread for a sequel, but it just was like gross, and I didn't like it at all.
No, I didn't like it either.
That's a gross taste in my mouth. And again, it's like if the power had cut off 10 seconds earlier, it would have been completely different.
Yeah,
it's just super odd. And I think with the whole guard saying you can't come here, I think they were trying to establish a sinister tone, and the idea is that Kasala being in the situation is actually bad and she would regret it, and there's something weird going on, and then therefore them kidnapping her would be, you know, presumably if they actually showed it instead of just explaining it with narration, would be a good thing and she'd be down with it. But they don't do the legwork to explain that, so it's just weird.
Yeah, it's just really gross.
And like if they wanted it to be a sinister tone, they shouldn't have used that super high poly gorgeous cutscene of her coronation. Like that is a happy thing. So
they could have played like weird ominous music while she got her coronation and implied again that something was actually amiss.
Yeah, and just had a couple people with like shifty eyes in it and stuff. Like could have done something to let us know it's not a good thing. But
yeah, and actually when they did the whole like we're going into the Back to the Future and now we see that there's a 10,000-year-old Marglin, I was totally expecting like, oh, wouldn't that be a cool little tonal whiplash if like you just say Marglin and it's so nice, but then 10,000 years later it's some kind of like weird authoritarian nightmare. Mm-hmm. You know, that would have been a cool, weird, uncomfortable way to end the game.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened, or they at least didn't make it clear that that's what was happening.
Yeah.
It just kind of ended. I wish we had a better way to then pivot into our like final thoughts and everything, but no, there's no like nice button on the end of the story. It's
actually funny. Zegram says at one point, he's like, well, I guess that happened. Yeah, and I'm like, Zegram, that's how I feel. Well, I guess that happened.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this is the opposite of what y'all were saying because I have stupid opinions, but my opinions actually the ending kind of went on a bit too long, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think instead of being shorter, it should have actually been longer.
Oh, I agree, actually.
And here's the reason. A lot of the parts that were cutscenes, if they had been playable and had taken longer, then you could have it would have been like a whole epilogue. So I meant to bring this up in our Persona 3 talk, but I forgot. So Persona 3, you know how after you beat the final boss, you get to hang out for like a couple of days and actually do regular run around town shit.
Oh yeah, that playable epilogue is really cool.
I have a word for that, and I just want to throw this out there as sort of a lexicon. That I think it's a cool term. I call that the victory lap.
Yeah.
And the reason is because every Dragon Quest game does a victory. Oh, Sam, you know now. The Dragon Quest 1 has a victory lap, right?
Yeah.
It's literally like, hey, you saved the world. Now there's no more random battles, and you can go to every single town and talk to all the NPCs if you want to. Yeah. And they all have dialogue that's like, thanks for saving the day. And as the Dragon Quest games get longer and get more and more towns, the victory laps get longer and longer. And once they got to Dragon Quest 7, they're like, okay, this is ridiculous. This game has like 30 towns. So at that point, the victory lap instead is more like a tour where the game takes you to a small number of the towns and you get to explore them, and then you leave and it transports you to the next town because they're like, we can't let the player explore for 50 fucking hours. They just beat the game. Anyway, if this game had done a victory lap where you go to New Mariglan and you get to run around and talk to people and maybe even learn about the history of this New Mariglan and see how things are different and compare to how things were before, you know, assuming you actually bothered to talk to the NPCs before, which I didn't, but if I had, I think that would have been really cool. A little Mariglan victory lap, chat with people, and then a number of these really dramatic cutscenes could have been more just like lower key dialogue scenes. And not because I don't like cutscenes, but because like a lot of the cutscenes didn't have any plot information that was super important. It's not like they were that exciting. So why not just click through with lower intensity scenes, again, just sort of a broader, lower energy thing, and then you can still have the final 10 minutes of cutscenes. And for some reason, that would have taken twice as long, but I would have liked it twice as much.
Yeah. So one of my favorite endings in video game history, because it's so indie film and everyone in the entire world hated it. So you're about to hear a hot take from me, but I love the ending of Mass Effect 3.
I knew you were going to say that. I absolutely knew that.
Yeah, because I think I've brought it up before. But they do the victory lap before a like
so smart
of like a because like the final boss is the friends you met along the way. It's like if you count the ending as the victory lap plus the end, it does all the things the ending needs you to do. But everybody wanted that to be in a cutscene at the end. But you go around, you just talk to everybody, and they talk through their issues. They wrap up their story. If you would have gone to New Mariglan, and they wanted to have kicked you out for being smelly, and everybody would have walked around, and you would have like been able to talk to them and have a little scene like that, that would have been like perfect, because like it was my favorite thing in Mass Effect 3. Specifically, I had romanced Jack, who's not a playable character in the third one, so I couldn't take her with me. I just had to video call her. And so you video call her, and she says, I'll see you. She says, I'm better get laid tonight. But what she means is you're going to die and I'm going to miss you. And it like hurts, and it's so good, and all of that jazz. And you get those things. If we would have had those things with these characters, and then we can go and watch the coronation or whatever, like it would have been, it would have been so much better. But this one, it's like, I just fought for 4 hours walking through a dark cave and fighting the same boss twice to then get this 10-minute letdown of a cutscene.
You know, kind of think of it, even if they did the whole like you can never see Kasala again because of, you know, maybe it's some stupid tradition and Kasala decides to uphold the traditions, they could have explained it in 5 seconds, and even if there's no explanation, I would have been like, okay, fine, I'll suspend my disbelief. But then that would have given even more power to the weird little victory lap, because it's like, it's you and your friends hanging out for one last time before you never see them again. Right? Yeah. And that could have been so nice and bittersweet, but I don't know. It was and they could have reused the assets. If Marglin's gonna look the fucking same anyway, they could have just reused the assets.
Yeah. It would have been absolutely fine.
It's not like this game would ever have an unnecessarily high amount of unique NPC dialogue. That's not a thing this game does constantly.
No. It's not a thing
I
this
gotta say, I respect this game continuing to have NPCs literally everywhere, even in the final dungeon. the funniest shit. They never stop having NPCs everywhere for no reason. It's hilarious.
And they say the most useless crap.
That at least this time was the only time they've done this. But the second half of the dungeon, when the faces start showing up, the NPCs are only the little like fire spirit things from Jiraiya.
Spirits, yeah.
So it's like people still make it down here, but then they die. But you can still randomly talk and get useless NPC dialogue if that's your thing. But at least it's not just Burton walking around down there again. But yeah, that was our second game, guys. We did it.
Woo!
Nice. Congratulations.
You're a real boy now. Wait.
Overall, entirety of the game, what was your favorite part and your least favorite part? And be nice to the least favorite part. I don't want to just bring up Jiraiya over and over again.
Nah, my least favorite part was just the last 5 seconds. That was worse than any Jiraiya.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, I would agree there, actually.
Yeah, I think my favorite part is the bait and switch they gave me. By the time you get Diego in your party, you've looked at a series of TV tropes pages and barely played a game along the way, and then that set them up for the like 3 times that they bucked trends completely to be like really, really cool. A microcosm of that was everybody was like, oh no, I was wrong about this thing that defined my life. And then Lilica was like, no, you were right, but like you should still be proud of yourself. Like those moments, those moments like jump out at me so much because I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And it's probably because in a normal thing, I would expect that. But because I was expecting this to be color by numbers after the first 6 chapters, it not being that way, I thought was super duper cool.
Yeah, I liked Vidan a lot. I liked that whole plot of
in general,
Diego and Angelica and Gale and
that awesome fake out cutscene with the train.
Yeah.
Beautiful cutscene.
Yeah.
And I really like Gale as a character. I really wish he had not died so soon and we could have seen more of him.
Yeah. I really liked like if I had to do like a broad stroke, the characters, even though this game needed like Tales of Skits or something like that, or like I'm playing through Persona 5 right now, and Persona 5 you don't have, like technically you do because you have a social link with everybody, but your inner connection stuff is you're just driving around Mementos and like Ryuji will be like, oh man, this leather jacket that I'm wearing rubs me weird, and Morgana's like, well, you should try being a cat or whatever, and they just have little stuff like that. If we would have had that would have been better. But like overall, the characters themselves, even though once they were introduced they kind of just became the tank, the DPS, the whatever, I really liked the characters. And so when we got through that first dungeon of or second dungeon of Margland, where we learned everything about them, I like loved that a whole lot. And
yeah, definitely.
I there definitely exists a game, and we'll probably end up playing it on this podcast, and we'll find it out, that is this sort of thing where it's a loose collection of tropes, except the Malik character is a straight up like normal Malik and not the cool dog Diego Malik that we ended up with. And like you just get, oh, this is the fighter, this is the healer, this is the chosen one that doesn't want to go on her journey, and all of those things. Like we just get the absolute color by numbers, and this one managed to not. Like I made the joke a couple episodes ago that they just rolled a d20 on a chart to see what the plot of the game was, then they handed it to a good writer to go and connect all the dots. And that's I think that's the thing I like the most about it at the end, is I was which is why the ending was such a letdown, is because it like went against the characters like stuff that they had all done by the end of it.
Totally.
Definitely.
Which does remind me, sorry, this is just a little thing. I was watching the cutscenes. There literally were 3 different teams that did cutscenes, so that's why it's inconsistent, is because
that makes sense.
You had the people doing the high poly, the people doing the low poly, and then the people doing the like in-engine ones. And those were 3 different teams, like
that makes sense.
Completely different. Yeah. but it just thought it was cool that like we picked up on that. We're like, it's almost like these people like didn't even like hear what was going to be going on with it. And they wanted to have a lot of extra fun.
They were given their instructions, and that was it.
Yeah. So my so I have one other thing I want to mention before I mention my favorite thing about the game, which is I think really nice actually. So another thing I didn't like that I mentioned earlier, I really feel like the game should have had like a twist.
Yeah.
It's not like everything needs a twist, but like at the end you get to Eden and it's like, oh, it's actually bad, you have to go on an adventure. That's not really a twist, it's just the development. Like I was looking I feel like this is the kind of game that really would have benefited from some super late game rug pull, right?
Yeah.
And it not having one was just, I don't know, I expected there to be one, frankly. And there wasn't, it was weird. But there was one big rug pull, which is in the credits, when I found out that, what's his name? Marsha, and also a couple other minor characters were voiced by Quentin Flynn, who is Raiden in Metal Gear Solid 2 and other Metal Gear games, and also who is, what's his ass from Kingdom Hearts? Redhead guy? Axel, yeah. Quentin Flynn owns. He gives an incredible performance. People who play MGS2 think his performance is bad. That's because they don't understand Metal Gear Solid 2 or the point of that character. And Axel is cool as hell, even though it's fucking stupid.
I love him.
Quentin Flynn owns, and he voices Mancha plus two other characters who were named in the credits, but whose names I did not recognize because I don't remember every fucking character's name in this game.
And then it was either him or another person, or him and another person, that like every NPC that just had like a rah rah rah, they did those voices too. And I was like, oh, that's cool that like half this game you were listening to the same 12 people and I didn't notice it in the middle. Like I love when voice actors get away with that stuff. Like I listened to the Doctor Who audio plays by Big Finish, and like so many times I'll get to the end of it, I'm like, man, that was great, let me listen to the behind the scenes. And they're like, yes, my name is Amanda Hope, and I played blah 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 and blah 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 and blah 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 and blah 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 and blah blah blah. And I'm like, really?
Yep.
I had no idea. And so like Quentin Flynn et al. Did that all over this one, which was really cool.
He's really versatile. It's almost like voice actors are real good.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just thought that. Oh, that's right. He was Toady, which is really funny.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, my actual favorite part about the game though is just a lot of the, like you said, it's like they had a dumbass plot and gave it to good writers. Mm-hmm. It also had just really good cutscenes.
Yeah.
And throughout the game, it had a number of scenes that were not just cool or badass, but it really had a number of striking moments visually, which was really cool, especially for this era, because, like, to this day, game developers keep trying to be like, oh, our game is like a movie. Look how sophisticated it is. And I'm like, yeah, except you haven't like had anything as visually interesting as any movie I've ever seen. Like, you don't have an eye for visual language. And this game had a lot of it, but I really loved in the final cutscene, it had this scene where Jaster is looking up at space like he fucking does. And what's cool is they're essentially referring back to the scene where he learned that as a kid that his dream sucks, and that as a kid he wanted to create world peace and not to see the galaxy. What's cool is they don't reference that. They just leave it to me, the player, to put that together. And he's looking up into space, and he literally just looks up and he sees the galaxy and the stars, and he just says, I've never seen the galaxy look so peaceful. But the way that the camera pans and the way that the music plays and just the way the galaxy looks, it's actually pretty affecting. It was a really, really nice moment. It was like probably my favorite single moment of the whole game, and it was 5 minutes before my least favorite moment of the whole game. And again, it was very subtle. It's just like he like lifts his arms and kind of makes like he like almost like raises his arms up to space, and it reminded me of one of my favorite movies, Speed Racer, where it's like the catharsis of realizing that you have done the thing that you had wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And realizing sort of the continuity of childhood and adulthood, and again, it was extremely subtle, and it's not a theme that the game had been exploring particularly nuancedly up until this point, but all of a sudden they just really hit it, and I was just like, damn, that's good stuff. So the game is filled with a lot of interestingly, weirdly poignant moments that don't last as long as they should, but it's still cool that they're there.
Yeah, and like that harkens back to like when Digo is like holding Angela and he has the 1,000-yard stare, and you just see the like, Gale, I'm going to kill you for doing this to my wife. Like that look on his face.
Yeah.
They do stuff like that. And then like Mancha, the comic relief character, turning away in sadness after Raoul died, and like they do these. It's just like I'm a filmmaker of moments. Like this is what I build my script around, and this game had its moments. Like I 100% agree. Like there's so many tiny bits that like speak to me.
It's like a weirdly sensitive game in a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a fun time. I'm glad we played it. I feel it did not hold up to the Great White Buffalo status that it had.
Yeah.
I'm still glad that I played it and I enjoyed it while I was playing it. And it was sad to see it go. So normally, because I don't have that big of a hard drive on my PS4, when I beat something, I then cathartically delete it off of my hard drive, and it feels awesome. And I didn't delete Rogue Galaxy. I don't know if I'm going to go and play the Ghost Ship, which, by the way, there's 2 more dungeons if you want to do them. They're really hard. You have the Ghost Ship.
Oh, there's 2?
Yeah, You have the Ghost Ship and then the Ghost Ship Extreme.
Oh.
And they're both super duper hard. But I don't know if I'm going to do those. Don't know if I'm going to do Insectron. Don't know if I'm going to go and like get every treasure chest or fill out my revelation flow, or if I'm going to do anything. But I wasn't ready to delete it at the end of it, which means a lot. So yeah, it was a good time.
I told Ken if he wants to do that extra stuff, he's on his own.
Yeah,
I think when you put it in the context of its time of being like a freaking stupidly ambitious PS2 game that had no business trying to be what it was. And the thing is, that's a lot of games in the late PS2 era were like that, and it's one of the reasons why the PS2 is such a beloved console. It was a time when everyone was just trying the craziest shit, and that's cool. You know, you need that. You need. I have a theory that I won't talk about too long, but basically that in most art is like this, but video games especially, I think you have times of experimentation and times of refinement, both in individual studios, but also culturally. So like NES, right, era. NES was all these crazy new ideas. Super NES was, I'm not saying there wasn't innovation going on in Super Nintendo, but it was largely a refinement of ideas that had been developed previously. PS1, again, was all these new ideas. PS2, at least the first part of the PS2, was a lot of refinement. But then the late PS2, it's like people unlocked another level of technology because they started using the console better, and you have this another wave of experimentation. And what would happen with all those weird ideas? Well, they would be refined later into better games, right? And you might have mentioned, you might notice I didn't mention Sega consoles. That's because if Sega has one problem, it's that they're always in the experimentation phase and they forget to do the refinement phase. That's both the best and worst thing about Sega, which is hilarious.
One of my favorite things about Sega is they came out with the Saturn like before the PS1 really took off, and then their answer to the PS1, the Dreamcast, was as strong as a PS2 and should have done awesome, but because of all of that, it didn't. So it was like so weird looking back at them like this. Like, if graphics are the only thing that matters, which us modern people say, why didn't the Sega Dreamcast, the answer to the PS1, do that? Because it's beautiful. But yeah,
the Dreamcast basically, I mean, honestly, Sony just had they just became a cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah.
And there's no particular reason why the Dreamcast shouldn't have been super successful. It just wasn't because Sony, again, was amazing at marketing and tapped into this weird cultural thing. And But yeah, the Dreamcast was awesome.
Yeah. But
and this is a Dreamcast game, basically.
Yeah, that's definitely what it feels like. But any final thoughts on Rogue Galaxy before we kick it on over to some Q&A?
Solid 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I probably will be a little too nice and give it like 7.5. Jumps out. I might give it an 8. mostly just because all of the extra shit that we didn't really go into is really fun and really fleshed out. I wish they would have cut out Insectron and give us a better ending. Like, I'll take that deal. But like the amount of stuff they give you is like huge, and no part of it besides the fact that the factory isn't tied to like a grid like it should be. Like no other part of it has like bothered me and made me like mad at it. Like everything is really polished, which is really good. It's just
that's true. Yeah, totally.
There's just some pacing issues that like I wish like we could have taken some resources from the extra, but like I feel an 8 is probably where I'll land on that.
If I were to rate it, I can't do rating out of 10 because it's just so hard to divorce myself from like mainstream game criticism and like what 7 out of 10 means and what 8 out of 10 means when it's coming from like fucking IGN or whatever. It's so ingrained that it's weird to not think about that. So I like to do 4 stars because A, that's how what film critics do, and also that's how some of my favorite game critics do. Also, it's just easier. 8 subdivisions is better than 10.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would say, and this is generous, but like, I don't know, it's functional, it's real fun, it's got great graphics, it's got incredible architecture. As a world to hang out in and as a story to sometimes care about and sometimes be annoyed by, I think it's a solid 3 stars. The issue is
3 out of 4, that is, not 3 out of 5.
3 out of 4. And the issue is that on some level, it's like dumb as hell and fucking stupid. But the thing is, depending on my mood, that either bumps it up to a 3.5 or bumps it down to a 2.5. If I'm being real weird, honestly, I'm giving it 3.5 out of 4 just because it's just very singular and bizarre, and it's cool that Level 5 made it, even if they kind of fucked it up.
Yeah. I will say that playing this makes me want to play Ni no Kuni more than it's Studio Ghibli makes Pokemon, which is really what it is. So, but like playing this game and like knowing Level 5 on like a more intimate level makes me like, okay, well, this is the one where they tried it. Like, I want to see what happens when they try harder type thing. So
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I've played enough of Ni no Kuni to know I don't care for it. But I've heard that Ni no Kuni 2...
Yeah, I probably was going to skip straight to 2.
So hard. So I want to play Ni no Kuni 2, and if you feel like playing Ni no Kuni 1, I think you should also just skip to 2, because I've heard they don't have any relation to each other, and that 2 is way the hell better.
Yeah, that's probably what I'll do if we end up doing that. But let's get started on some Q&A. So
some Q&As.
The first one we have is our good friend Essie, also known as Blank Lass. So you changes it depending on what her hair looks like. But classy lassie. But look, we just made that joke and she's listening, so she's about to change her Discord nickname. I guarantee it. But she asked, how did all 4 of us actually meet each other and become friends? Rizzo is at work, so he can't answer. So I will just say how I know him, but it's actually kind of boring. But she said she still wanted to hear the story. So Eli, I guess you can start and how you and I met.
Yeah, Sam and I met 2014. We were on a team together at work, and did you sit next to me at the time? You were at least very close to me.
Yeah, I think you were like behind me and to the right, but like spitting distance.
Yeah. And we became friends that way. He was super cool. He apparently... Go ahead.
I remember the first, like, direct message conversation we had was the inevitable thing that happens when you're in a group of nerds and a Pokemon game comes out every year and we work for an MMO company, is somebody was like, oh, I want a Pokemon MMO. And so Eli was talking about it and actually had, like, good ideas on how you solve the, like, progression, because you don't have progression in Pokemon actually, and so it's like how would you like treat an end game and stuff. And I was like, and so I direct messaged him and I was like, well, actually the Digimon MMO answered this in a really cool way. And Eli was like, I'm going to stop you right there, I don't give a shit about Digimon.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then we were friends.
Digimon is discount Pokemon. I don't care what anyone says, especially Sam.
Stands for.
Yeah.
Discount Jiddle Pokemon.
So I'm excited for when when we inevitably do a Digimon head-to-head, probably of Cyber Sleuth and Digimon World 3, because those are the two best ones. And I would love if it just like unhinges a monster in Eli and suddenly you're a bigger Digimon nerd than me.
No, I love Digimon. How did this happen? I think I'd like implode into a singularity or something. But yeah, so we got to be friends back then, and then we ended up on another team a couple years later, and Sam was like, "Oh man, I get to sit next to Eli," and I'm like, "He cares about me." And so that was a really cool moment. I'm like, I have work friends. I have actual friends.
So one of the first times I cared about Eli is we were at the first Blizzard company picnic I went to, and I realized that I didn't know anybody at Blizzard. Like, there's something about that company picnic. You feel every day you see the same people. You go to the company picnic, and you're just like, there's 1,000 people here. Who are you?
Yeah. I've had that exact feeling at the picnic.
Yeah, and so I was walking around with Summer and Eli, who, like, that first team we were only on that team for like 3 weeks. So like, I didn't think that I had made an impression on Eli, and I just have a weird thing for names and faces. So of course I remembered him, but he like stopped me at the picnic and was like, "Oh, hey Sam, good to see you." Yada yada yada. I'm like, "You're a good person. You're gonna be a good friend."
Thank you. I have a weird thing where I don't know. I seem to have a way better memory than a lot of other people. And so, like, I remember, well, usually it's about negative stuff. I usually remember the most embarrassing things that I think that they'll remember. And then they're like, I don't remember that happening. I'm like, cool, let's pretend I didn't say it. But yeah, like, I just, you stuck out to me. Yeah. You were one of the new guys, but like, I don't know, certain newbies have always stuck out in my mind. I couldn't tell you like more than 3 people who were in my training class. But yeah, I absolutely like felt like I had a connection with you there. And and then I met Michael Rodriguez through work as well. He and I were on our, not the previous team, but the one before that together, which Sam was also on.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really talked to him a whole lot, but we started. He just always strikes up a conversation with me. Like whenever he'd see me, he'd just strike up a conversation. And then like a few times he'd give me his debit card to go buy tacos from the taco lady for him. He's like, "Oh, you're such a sweetheart. Thank you for going to get tacos." I'm like, "I use your money. It's fine."
Right.
But yeah, when Sam was talking about this podcast, like I was just sitting down, we were having some company lunch thing.
Yeah.
And we all ended up sitting at a table together, and Sam was talking about this podcast idea, and I was like, he's like trying to find someone else. I'm like, I like RPGs. I don't want to insert myself into your thing, but I'm interested. Yeah. And I haven't played a lot of RPGs, so this will give me a chance.
Yeah, and I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So now we have our fresh eyes. I'll be fresh eyes on almost all of them as well, because I'm cheating and using this podcast as a way to mark things off of my backlog.
Oh, there you go.
But
I don't have that backlog because I don't know what games to play.
Yeah. If you want to borrow mine or Matt's backlog, we'll give it to you.
Okay, great. But, I'm sure we'll get through at least part of it through here.
So, me and Michael met in a like super glamorous way. It's like I always like downplay when people are like, "Oh, you work for Blizzard." And I'm like, "I'm just a glorified cashier." And then I tell stories like me and Michael met at PAX East in Boston, and we were both working for the console debut of Overwatch that we did there, and that was about like a month after the whole Tracer's butt thing. And
oh god, Askate.
And so, as you are well aware by listening to this podcast, when an issue comes up, me and Michael like to talk about the issues. And so, we were talking about Askate, and then we were talking about Lucio still doesn't speak any Portuguese, and all of that stuff, and we just hit it off. But like, I didn't exchange any information with them or anything like that. Didn't even like remember his name much more than his name was Michael type thing. And then we ended up being on the same team together for two teams ago, and I was just like, oh yeah, like we hit it off that one time, but we still didn't really even talk that much on that team. We just like, if we were all sitting around together, we would talk, but we didn't like seek out one-on-one conversation until on our next team we ended up sharing a window, and it would be things like we're sitting there just like talking, and then we would like push back from our desk and be like, okay, so on RuPaul last night, and so then we became like inseparable after sharing that window together, and then of course starting the podcast.
I thought for sure, based on the way you two talk, that you had known each other since like high school.
No.
I thought you had grown up together.
No, he just loves to talk, and I'm a dad, so I have to talk, especially if it's embarrassing.
That's true.
And yeah, the people who've known each other for a million years would be me and Spiffle. So you can tell it from your side first, Spiffle.
Yeah, so pretty unglamorous. We just like met in college like regular people. Were you in the very first freshman level film class, Sight Sound Motion? Were you in that one?
I was. I think we might have had that one together.
Okay, yeah, so just literal freshman year. I wasn't the film major, but you can take some like electives and stuff. Well, I was in the Bayer game program for a while, which is kind of just like a combo bob of like programming track and like film stuff, and not to badmouth the program, but it turned out it was not at all what I wanted when it came to education about video games. It was just like training if you want to work for the really big companies and do a very specific kind of game, which is not. Yeah, I wasn't learning what I thought I actually wanted to learn at all. Yeah. So anyway, I ended up...
Conversely, I was on that track, and I did the same thing, except I was like, oh, I don't want to program. I want to tell stories. So I left computer science behind and went onto the film side of it, which Michael did the opposite.
So I just switched to a regular computer science degree with no game aspect at all, even though that is totally what I wanted to do, because I just didn't see the benefit to their actual game programs. Anyway, though, we just continued having classes. Like, we also had history of American pop music together, which was a fucking great class.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it so much. And my favorite thing, and because like me and Michael were mostly friends through our mutual friend Bernard, because Bernard was in my senior thesis film. And so like we had classes together, but most of our like interactions were while I was doing something with Bernard. Michael was there, and we would have little conversations. But in American pop music, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna really like this kid, because he referred, I think it was to Red Dirt Country, as the Blink-182 of country music, and I'm like, that's my people.
Who said that?
You did. You referred
I said that?
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it was really good.
Oh my god, I'm funny.
Wow, that's some good shit. Good job, Hathme. But anyway, yes. So Bernard is the best person on the planet. He's a total sweetie Petey.
Absolutely.
He does not listen to this cast because he wants to play most of the games we talk about, but doesn't have the time and doesn't want to spoil them. So that's that. But at any rate, So then later, Sam was doing a student film, and I held a lot of objects for his student film, which was a lot of fun. And then a lot of time passed, and we did separate things for a long time. And then Sam said, "Hey, Michael, I got this cool podcast idea. Because we're Facebook buds, and it's like you want to be part of it." And I was like, "Hell yes!" And that was the first time I met Michael or Eli, and I'm super glad I did, because what fantastic people. I feel
thank you.
I feel so privileged and from Texas, #blessed, to have, made these two extremely fantastic friends that there's no chance that our lives would have been intersected otherwise. So,
and we've already had a lot of fun geeking out over Twin Peaks together, which makes me super happy, because like the only person I personally know, aside from you, who has watched Twin Peaks: The Return, and two people actually. The only people who have watched Twin Peaks: The Return and loved it, aside from you, are my mom and my partner. All of my friends who have watched are just like, I'm not really into it. My dad's like, I like the old series better. And I'm just like,
It's like you don't understand.
Yeah.
you need to get on my level. No, it's so fucking good. But so that's I guess that's it for my story. And I'm sticking to it. Oh, and then so Sam asked me to be on this when I was still in Austin, and I was like, wow, what a great idea. Thank you. I'm moving away forever in like 2 months.
I really wish that I could have met you beforehand, before you left, because I feel like we would have had a lot of fun hanging out. But if you ever are in Austin again, like, absolutely let us know, because...
Yeah. I mean, I definitely plan to visit Austin again in the future. And next time I visit Austin, I won't be, getting married, so I might have time to actually hang out.
Yeah. One final thing before we move on to the next question. The reason I asked Michael about joining on this podcast was, like, yeah, I knew he had made games. Yeah, I knew we had a super long, like, 4-hour conversation about games that my wife had to sit through at one point when I was testing out dinosaurs in Pakistan. But mostly the reason I asked him is he will randomly, like, unbidden on Facebook be like, all right, so the reason that this game composer is better than this game composer is because blah, blah, blah. And here's the links, and here's my sources cited, and this is like a college-level thesis in my Facebook status. And I was like, that he's good. He knows his stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. In that class that we shared, that music class, my research paper was about 80s and 90s Japanese video game music. Dragon Quest, mostly. Yes, But also, I gotta say, and this is not like a braggy way, this is just a fact, and also I'm a huge fucking dork. As far as pure, like, numbers, like statistics, like, I think I've played by far the most RPGs out of the group.
Yeah. Second place is definitely Rizzo. And then I am only beating Eli by default.
The thing about me and Rizzo is that we have a lot less overlap, which is nice. For example, like, he's played way the hell more SMT than me, whereas SMT is on my to-play list for the most part, and I noticed other areas of not overlap as well, which is real nice. It'd be dumb if we'd all just played the same shit.
Yeah, for sure. So the next, speaking of playing a lot of RPGs, the next question comes from our good friend Matt. I have to reference him every time, and we already have done it 3 times in this this episode. But
he's one of our best boys. So
he is. So he asks, if you could take any characters from any RPGs or JRPGs and build a team out of them, who would you pick and why? Eli, we'll start with you.
Okay. So I didn't make a party that was optimized. I made a party of the characters that I happen to like for various reasons. So my first would be Terra from Final Fantasy VI.
She's beautiful.
Because that's my favorite Final Fantasy. She's beautiful. She's a badass half-Esper lady with Sailor Neptune hair, and I love her. I also I have a thing for half-breeds because it kind of feels like in some ways it can be an allegory for bisexuality. Like, I don't fit in this world and I don't fit in this world. So here I am. Yeah. So I relate really heavily to that. The next is Prince Sidon from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, because I want to fuck that fish.
Oh my god, yeah. It's a good
I
fish.
mean, that's pretty much it. Sorry, Ken, I want to fuck that fish.
You know what I love about Sidon? Just real quick, I love how everyone came to the same conclusion about him. And so a lot of the time on the internet, it's like you have a fad, like on Tumblr or Twitter, and everyone just, like, one person sees, I want to fuck Sidon, and now everyone's saying it. That didn't happen with Zelda, and you know why? Because nobody was on the internet. Everyone was just playing Zelda.
Yeah.
Everybody played that game because all you want to do is play Zelda, not be on the internet. And then days later, everyone goes online, and it's like, wow, turns out we all had the same idea about Sidon.
Yeah, everybody, like, there's collective love for Prince Sidon. And, aside from being a hot fish guy, he's just a fun character. He's just a really fun character. Next would be Sans from Undertale. I'm not going to spoil anything. Actually, I wrote it as... Sans Undertale, yeah. I wrote it as because I need comic relief with a healthy dose of spoiler alert.
Nice.
Yeah. So, you won't get to find that out until later. But but I do like Sans a whole lot. Next is Garnet from Steven Universe Attack/Save the Light, because she's a strong independent gem fusion who kicks ass for love.
Yeah. Also, the song in which she tells the world that is literally the best song in the last 10 years.
My God.
So
this is Garnet back together. And I'm never going down at the hands of the likes of you because I'm so much better. I could sing the whole song. I'm not going to.
Up until that point, the songs were like novelties. Like, it was fun that there were songs, but it was just like cute. And at that point, you're like, whoa!
Stronger Than You is like the greatest thing to ever come out of children's television.
Yeah.
It's
Holy
so
fucking
good.
shit. Anyway, so my last was going to be Paula from Earthbound, but only after you leveled her up a bunch and she didn't die every other fight.
Yeah.
But I remembered another one that I like better, and that's Vivian from Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, because she's a cute transgender ghost.
Yeah.
That's
man, that's great.
I adore her. So, yes, that's my party.
That's beautiful.
Is that 5? Yeah, that's 5.
Yes.
All right. I'll go next because I remembered who my healer was. So my swordsman main character type would be Dart from Legend of Dragoon. He's Cloud but correct, and I like him a whole lot. He never really has a stupid existential crisis. He's just like, he goes into a new place and they're like, hey, we're in crisis, and he's like, well, I'm a hero, so I'm gonna help. And I really admire that about him. My tank is Digo because he's the best, and that's just it. Like, y'all know.
He's doggo. He is good.
My rogue-ish character, he's like doesn't fight with twin daggers and all that rogue type stuff, but Albel Nox from Star Ocean 3, of the dark broody type to take the rogue archetype. I loved him so much. Like, I had this super cool fan art of Albel as my background through most of high school on my computer. I love him a whole lot. If we ever get to that game, you'll see why. He's really cool. I think, like, I'll probably look back, I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was so cool and edgy, but at least with nostalgia goggles, I'm looking back, and I loved Albel. My mage would be Pascal from Tales of Grace's F. She's a mage, but she casts her spells by hitting you in the head with her staff. She's a melee mage, which is really cool. She's hilarious and the tech guru in your party as well. And so she's always like, one of my favorite things she does is she doesn't know the words for a lot of things because she gets flustered. And so she's like, all right, so I just need to like chomp, chomp, chomp on the boobly bop, and then it'll do the thingamajig and everything will be good. And she's adorable. And then my healer, of course, I don't know why I had forgotten that I had remembered that this was my healer, is Aegis from Persona 3. She's technically like not a straight up healer, but she has Dairahan and a bunch of support spells, so she fits that archetype enough for me.
There you go.
But what about you, Spiff?
Nice. Yeah, so my group, the first couple people were very easy. My hero would absolutely be the hero from Dragon Quest. If you're wondering which one, the answer is
yes.
All of them.
The answer is yes.
What's cool about Dragon Quest is that it has a very stable class system, kind of like how Final Fantasy's 5, Tactics, and whatever have the same classes. Mm-hmm. Dragon Quest games, a lot of things change, but the classes typically stay the same, and the hero class is like amazing. Like, it's really good. It's not because I love Dragon Quest. Like, you know how in Persona 3, your main character is not on the same level as the other characters? Your main character is fucking incredible and can do everything, and everyone else just has to like kind of drag him around. That's how Dragon Quest parties are. So the hero has heals. He's got lightning. He's got revival spells. He hits pretty fucking good, like better than anybody who's not the dedicated hitter. Just real versatile and great. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go with the hero from Dragon Quest 8 because I love his design. He's got beautiful, wonderful colors. So he's party leader.
He's got your red, blue, yellow that you're in love with.
Yeah, he's wonderful. Following up behind him, Dragon Quest 5, but I can't pick him because I'm going to have 2 Dragon Quest 5 characters. Falling behind him is Yuna from Final Fantasy X. She's just a wonderful character. If y'all played this game, she's so just wonderfully well written, and it's so sensitive and cool. And she's a summoner, so being able to summon giant monsters is really cool. In FF10, you actually get to like control the summoned monsters. Like, it's like an actual battle mechanic. You get to be the monster
nice.
for like a couple of turns, and that's because summoning monsters is a huge part of the game's plot. It's not just a kind of like FF6 actually. So yeah, there's this whole mechanic about it. It's awesome. And also Yuna is like, she's just sweet. She provides so much support. Like she's the emotional center of the party, both in her game and in my theoretical party. After that, I've got, for my heavy hitter, I'm actually going to go with a doggo. In Dragon Quest V, you get to have a pet saber-toothed tiger.
Nice.
And he doesn't talk or anything. He's just a dog, and he does hella damage. He's like a barbarian.
Nice.
But the reason I'm including him in the party is because in Dragon Quest VIII, you cannot have a saber-tooth tiger in your party, but you can ride a saber-tooth tiger on the overworld.
That's pretty cool.
So I'm including this guy in my party with the caveat that it's because you can ride on top of him for transportation.
Yeah.
In addition to him doing hecka damage. Fourth, after this point, it doesn't matter as much. I'm kind of whatever. But, it's nice. It's nice to have a thief in any party. It's just useful. Or a person who's smart and resourceful. So for that, I was going to do Locke from FF6 because he's beautiful.
Locke is awesome.
Instead, I decided to go with Jansen from Lost Odyssey.
Oh, nice. I haven't played that one, but
Lost Odyssey is a fucking incredible video game. It's so fantastic. And Jansen starts off as a total sleazeball, total shithead, womanizer, untrustworthy thief guy, and he grows and blossoms throughout the game. Where instead of being annoying, you're like, oh my god, I love him so much. And then for my final person, I'd have to go with Luca from Chrono Trigger because she's my wife, and she's also the emotional center of that game, the thematic center of the whole game, and she's real smart and resourceful, and I kind of need an offensive magic user. So my party does not have a healer, which is great. Because fuck healers. Just if you hit the bad guys hard enough, then you don't need to heal. Also, Dragon Quest Hero is so good at everything that he can double. It's like if you need healing, then he just stops attacking and heals instead.
Yeah, that works. So a similar question. Matt asked another one, the bonus round most incompetent team, and I would say that it was you would just be a team of Quina from Final Fantasy VIII by herself. That's the most incompetent team.
How about this? Just 5 of every Final Fantasy game has its sort of weird deep cut gimmick characters. Just put all of them in a party.
Yeah.
You got Gao. You got
I was gonna say Gao. Yeah,
Gao's good, but he's gone half the time. And then you got Quina, and then you got freaking Kimari from FF10, who's supposed to be like Jack of all trades, but actually just sucks.
Yeah. You got Kate Sith. You got
just put all the fucking weirdos in one party.
Sid.
Yeah.
Put Sid in there.
Oh yeah, that's the team. Is every Sid from every Final Fantasy.
Every Sid.
I don't know. Some of those Sids are pretty good. That wouldn't be a terrible party, but it certainly wouldn't be that good either.
Yeah.
It'd be very confusing. They wouldn't know who anyone was talking to.
Yeah. Speaking of Sid, I love that the technical Sid, the character named Sid, is not the trope Sid in Final Fantasy 15, but it's a girl named Cindy, which is beautiful.
Oh.
I love it so much.
Wow, spoilers.
I'm annoyed that it's Cindy instead of Sydney.
Yeah,
which is a regular person name.
Sydney would definitely make sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's dumb. But yeah, I agree that there's actually 2 Sids. FF12 also has 2 Sids. Early on, you meet a character who's kind of got a name that sounds sort of like Sid. It's like El Ced. And you're like, oh, this is Sid. But then later you meet another guy and you're like, oh no, this is Sid.
Yeah.
They tricked me.
Oh my god, Lost Odyssey has a character named Ced. I just realized. Oh my fucking god.
Actually, the correct answer is the people in your party that have to die in the opening scene. That's a tutorial in every RPG ever. Those are the characters. So you have Sergeant Jenkins from Mass Effect. You have Wedge and Biggs from Final Fantasy VI. Those characters all together. Those are the ones.
That'd be great.
All right. So our last question. Maybe last question comes from Tuxedo Ken himself, and he says, if you could be sucked into any RPG or JRPG game, which game would it be, and what would your abilities be? And Spiff, you can't say Dragon Quest and be a hero class.
So as far as the abilities go, you're right, that'd be cheating. But Dragon Quest is just so beautiful and happy all the time, and it's wonderful, and everyone's Catholic.
Nice.
No, but in the interest of not saying Dragon Quest constantly, I'm going to say Fantasy Life. because
nice.
Fantasy
you don't
Life
have
is
to
a good
fucking
one.
fight things. You just like do regular like be a fucking baker, except they don't have capitalism, so you can actually you don't have to you're not like poor all the time.
Oh, nice.
I need to get back into that game. I was playing it for a while, but there's just so much to it.
Yeah.
And I got sucked into other things. That happens to me easily. I have ADHD about all things in life, but especially video games.
Yeah, and I am torn on which of my, well, of course, it's Sam Allman, this is going to be his answers it would be, and it would either be a Dragoon from Legend of Dragoon, or be a Digimon Master from Digimon, and like the one that popped in my head first, which means it's probably the answer that's my real answer, is Legend of Dragoon. But I also am Sam Allman, so it's probably Digimon.
You gotta say Digimon.
So my phone is on 1%, so we'll end it here.
I didn't answer mine.
Oh, I've totally skipped because all the other questions I've done, you then skipped for me, and this one
I went out of order.
Do it that way. Yeah.
Well, so I want to say Undertale. I can't say what my powers would be because I would spoil it. So in the interest of not spoiling anything, I'm actually going to go with Legend of Zelda.
Nice.
And I would absolutely be a Zora because they're awesome. And I would be a Zora that looks like an orca.
Okay.
Nice.
Yes, because orcas are the best.
I just changed my entire answer. I want to be in Rogue Galaxy World, and I want to be the person who's just got a fucking entire fish for a head.
That dumbass looking pufferfish, dude.
So fucking stupid.
He's my favorite.
I know. He's so good.
Okay, now we can end it.
Yep, we're done.
Okay. All right. So, Spiff, read us out for the week.
All right. Yeah. What's the things that we say? Let's see. So, that was Rogue Galaxy. Thank you so much for coming on this wonderful journey with us. Yeah. If you like what you hear and you want to help us cover hosting costs and game costs, we're on Patreon at patreon.com/RPGBookClub. If you want to just chat, we got a Twitter at RPGBookClub, email rpgbookclub@gmail.com. But of course, the best thing of all is the Discord. Link in the description because we can't give it a cool URL. Discord's awesome, especially now during GDQ.
And it's super awesome because all of you are using it right now to listen to us, and you guys are special, and we love you.
Oh,
exactly. Yeah, Discord's always good, but this Discord is especially special because of all the special people in it.
Yes.
Yeah. So Sam, how about Eli? Remind everybody what our next game is.
Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Moon, another story. We're going to be starting that up next week. The Let's Play is going to go up before that. Again, with the Let's Play, we're going to be doing it in big chunks because I don't know the best way to be breaking that up. But, sorry, go ahead.
The first thing we'll be playing is Chapter 1, which, according to math and and how long to beat, is probably about 3 hours of gameplay. It's going to be way easier than Rogue Galaxy and definitely way easier than Persona 3. So.
Yeah. I do know from past experience that it does get a little grindy in parts, but it's really not too bad.
Yeah.
Cool.
And another good thing is that my weekend is changing for the next 3 months, starting on Sunday. So I'm actually going to have Sundays off, which means I'll have a weekend day with Ken, which means more time to record, which means Earthbound might be coming back.
Woo! Yeah,
so
boy.
You should pay attention to my channel if you're interested in seeing me suck and fail at Earthbound.
Yeah, I'm excited for Earthbound to pick back up because part of me is like, should I go and beat Earthbound or just watch all of Eli's Let's Play and count that as marking it off my backlog?
I say do that.
But
real quick, Sam, if people, how do people find out how to acquire this video game?
So, because this game never came out here, you're going to have to emulate it. If you have qualms about that, you can watch Eli Let's Play it. But you can pretty much Google it and find it. This is like the only... I've only found 2 translations of this game, and one of them is a patch for the translation that we're playing. So you'll probably stumble across it if you just look for Sailor Moon, Another Story, English translation, and you'll probably find it. And then you have to play it in an emulator, which is another thing you'll have to figure out how to do. If you need help, you can definitely contact us. And then I personally will be purchasing tickets to the Sailor Moon movies. The Viz dub are coming to theaters. So that is how I will be giving my money. I will be giving my money to the Sailor Moon people that way.
I purchased a membership to the Sailor Moon fan club this year, so that's my donation. Along with, I'll probably go see the movies in the theater because I'm a huge nerd. But yeah, I'm super excited about this. And it's a fan translation, 100%. A lot of love went into it, so it's really good.
Yeah, it means something that this was fan translated in 1999, and there's only that translation, because typically fan translations suck, and so people will finish one and then they will take their work and change it to make it better after that. Like Final Fantasy VI has like 7 translations for it, and so this one having one and it's stood the test of time for 20 years is definitely a mark of its quality.
Well, especially because circa 1999 translations are usually bad.
Yeah.
Well, with it being a fan translation, like these were people who like had learned about Sailor Moon and had watched Sailor Moon and enjoyed Sailor Moon, and they also knew Japanese. Mm-hmm. So, they're people who had really poured their hearts into it. And I think it shows based on just how true to the source material everything is.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And it's really cool. But yeah.
So, that's all the info. Just wanted to make sure that was all out there so no one's confused. So yeah, we can't wait to see you next week when we start that game. So for RPG Book Club, I have been Michael Spiffle-Webben.
I have been Sam Allman.
And I've been Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
Bye, everybody.
Love you. Bye.